Welcome to Healing Horizons, the podcast that explores healing across the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of life. I'm Saima, and today we are opening a conversation that gently stretches the horizon of how we understand healing, identity, and repeated life patterns. So, have you ever wondered why certain challenges, relationships, or fears seem to follow you, even when you have done the inner work? Why some lessons feel strangely familiar, almost echoing through time? So, today's episode invites us to look beyond this lifetime. Our guest is the illuminating Donna Hartley, an international speaker, inspirational author, world renowned past life reader, and awakened survivor. Donna has been featured on ABC, CBS, PBS, and in the New York Times. She is also a former Miss Hawaii, an actress, and the author of the powerful trilogy Fire Up Your Life. Donna's work explores how unresolved experiences from past lives can influence present day patterns, and more importantly, how recognizing these imprints can open the door to profound healing, freedom, and self understanding. So, this is a conversation about awareness without fear, curiosity without judgment, and healing that honors the soul's long journey. So, let's begin. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here. And I think you said it in the intro. Healing these patterns is a long journey.
Mhm. It's my honor to have you here, Donna. So, Donna, many people notice the same emotional or relational patterns showing up again and again in their lives. So, from your perspective, why do these patterns repeat?
Well, I do believe when we come down to earth, when we make that decision, and it's not done lightly. I mean, you have to meet with your karmic guides and your spirit guides and your previous family, and then you decide what you want to complete in this life. So, because maybe in other lives you didn't finish a pattern, or it was a negative pattern, or you had a gift. So now you're deciding to say, I want to break that pattern. Well, easier said than done because once you get down to earth, you get caught again in that negative energy of earth. Earth is the lowest of all the planets. So, when you do something, you fall back in that pattern. You say, oh, the new year's here. I'm definitely going to lose 10 pounds, how we say that, right? And then all of a sudden, after being good for 3 weeks, we fall back into the old eating patterns or we don't exercise.
Mhm.
Well, the same thing comes with a pattern from the other side. For example, you could have a pattern that's really negative, like smoking or drugs or drinking, and that those things are big to overcome. And once you overcome the pattern, you get tested on it. 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, years later, they want to see, and your soul wants to see if you completed the pattern. So remember, when you're going through those challenging times, first of all, you have to say to yourself, okay, I set this up. I don't like it, but I'm choosing to complete this pattern so I never have to do it again. So, what you're doing is you're ending the drama and the trauma. But for example, a woman might pick out the same kind of negative pattern. So, her father was negative to her. She has a negative boss. She has a negative boyfriend. See how those patterns continue until you clearly see them and say, I'm not participating in these patterns. I'm not going to choose those kind of people. I'm not going to be around them. Now, that takes a lot of inner work. So, that's where the inner work begins, where you have to go inside to really understand what's going on in the outside.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate how you explain that, Donna, and the way you describe patterns as, I would say intelligent, not random, not self sabotage, but as signals trying to bring something into awareness, reference, repetition with a lot more compassion. And it helps people see that the cycles aren't failures to do better, but invitations to listen more deeply, and that's really remarkable. Now, building on that, how can someone begin to sense whether a pattern might be rooted beyond this lifetime?
Okay, so people come to me. I mean, I'm a past life reader, and they want to know where a health pattern comes from. Now, they've got to go to their doctors, they have to do all the medical things and everything. But I can show them where the root of that pattern started, and then they can start to heal it. For example, I had a lady that had knee surgery, okay, and it wasn't healing. It wasn't healing, and she went to like a natural homeopath doctor, and the doctor said, "I think this is a past life pattern because this knee should be healing." So she called me, and after figuring it out, I always have a guide, that takes me in there, and I'm channeled. She understood way back in Roman times. She was a man, and she was full of anger and control. And when she captured people and they were slaves and they didn't walk, she put an outside X on their leg. And that way they even had more trouble walking. Now, that is so different from her in this life. She's caring, she's wonderful, but she had that pattern. Once she understood that, she went in, she cried, she meditated, she forgave herself for that negative pattern. Then, because she suffered in this life with her knee for about a year till she finally let go of that pattern. See, so I mean, we're talking way back in Roman times, when they were that could have been 300 uh, AD. And yet that pattern waited till now to choose it, that she would endure the pain and understood what did to the other people. Now she's perfect. Her knee is great. She's done all the medical things, all the treatments, all the rehab, but she had to get emotionally clear of that energy. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes in, it affects you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Now, another example is my last name is Hartley. That's Hartley. And I had 3 heart surgeries in this life. So I was born with a bad heart. Now, and my whole family has died of heart issues. Mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, great grandfather. You go back on and on. So I finally went in and said, on my 3rd surgery, and said, I have to find where this negative pattern began because I want to heal this. And I found out I was an urchin back in the Middle Ages, and I was about 14. My parents had died, and I'm stealing food. And the Lord of the land sees me. He sends a lady. They clean me up. They dress me. I look nice. And I'm his mistress for 5 years. And then I get pregnant, and I tell him he must leave his wife because he has to marry me. And I tell them over and over again, well, he doesn't. And then I lose the baby, a miscarriage. But I still lie to him. And then he sends a henchman with a spear, a knife, like a dagger, and he stabs me right in the heart and kills me. And I die in the gutter. And the townspeople don't even throw me in the grave till 3 days later. So I had to go back and forgive myself for lying. The lord of the land that betrayed me and used me, I forgave him, the henchman who killed me, and even the village people. And now when I go for my heart checkups, my doctor can't believe it. I mean, he goes, "Your heart's better now than it was years ago." See, so I had the best medical treatment and the best valve, but I didn't have the emotional clearing. That's what past lives and understanding will do. You can clear the emotional attachment that's still in there. Because some people have surgery and they don't get better, and other people have surgeries and they do get better. So once you can go in and clear those emotional patterns, and there's different ways to do that. One, you can go to a past life reader like myself and find out how to do it. Another one, you can be regressed by someone who helps you go back and you see the pattern and you understand it. Or the third one is then you can really take charge, you can meditate, quiet time, and you can develop that skill on your own, but it takes a lot of focus. So there's different ways to clear it, but the important thing is going to the root of the problem, understanding it, not judging it, still loving yourself, forgiving yourself, and forgiving the other people involved so you can move on in this lifetime. Did I answer the question?
Yes, 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 obviously. And I really appreciate how holistically you described that, Donna. Actually, naming the emotional, physical, and spiritual impact makes it really clear that these patterns aren't just mental concepts, they're lived experiences, that touch every layer of who we are. And I really love how you emphasized understanding and going to the root of the problem. not from a place of fixing, but from reclaiming agency and choice, like you said. And that framing makes the work feel empowering, rather than overwhelming.
You got it. You got to go to the root. Now, you could have done it in that life and then you attach to it in 6 other lives. Okay? So you have this negative pattern. But you when you go to the root of it, then you find out where it started, where that unworthiness started. Because along with my heart, I felt I was unworthy of love in this lifetime. So I never married. I had plenty of opportunities, but it still controlled me until I let it go. And now I can love fully, totally. I adopted my daughter, and I can
Mhm.
do that, but it was blocking me before. So you're right. In everyday decisions, you might go for a job interview and you think, I'm not going to get this job. I can't get this job. I'm not good enough. Because way back in time, maybe like 3 lifetimes before, your family told you you weren't good enough and you bought into it and you accepted it. Once you go back and you clear that, then you don't have to carry that in this everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that perspective, I would say that feels both expansive and comforting at the same time. Like our struggles aren't random, I feel, but invitations to understand something deeper, right? Now, as a past life reader, how do you explain the idea of past life imprints to someone who's curious but skeptical?
Oh, yes, there's plenty of those. Okay. In America, okay, and I live in California, 1 out of 4 people believe in past lives. Okay, when you do it on the world basis, then in India, of course, there's a lot more that do it. So we're getting there that finally people are saying past lives exist and coincidences. It's just not a coincidence. So I don't believe a soul can come to earth once and clear up all their karma because we have lots. So let me kind of explain how this works. Level 1, 2, and 3, that's in energy levels, is the Akashic records keeps your records for karma and you have to repeat it again and again and again. You're not judged when you go to the other side before you come back to for another lesson. But you must understand that you have to complete it. But there's levels above that 4, 5, 6, 7. And so once you break through the karma and the patterns here, you can move up to those higher levels. And that's like more records are kept up there. And that's not as karmic. And that's more spiritual. And that's has more depth. So for people that don't understand past lives, I asked them, "How comes you were attracted to that one person? How comes you were repelled by that other person when you didn't really know them? See, those are past life connections. How comes you have this strong feeling that you just get along with your dad and you and your dad are like really close more than most people that, he understands you understand him from another lifetime." So people, they're not ready to give up their belief that they only have one life. But I say just be open to the opportunity that you've lived before and you're going to live again, and you will be held accountable for your actions on earth. Now, I want you to understand nobody judges you from the other side, only you judge yourself. Your guides are there and your family is there that have passed on, but they show you the really positive things you did and they show you things that next time you could work on. Next time, maybe you have to be more patient. Maybe you have to be a better listener. Maybe you have to help more people in the next life. But, you know, I, uh, people don't really believe it until they have a past life reading and they understand a pattern that they had. For example, if they were totally afraid of water in their whole life, afraid of water, going on a lake, going in the ocean, and they find out they were killed on the ocean in another life, all of a sudden, it starts to make sense to them. Well, because I didn't know where I got that phobia from, where I thought that way. So only if it applies to them personally that they can understand it, then they might be open to it a little bit more. But I say read books on it, meditate, have discussions, be open that this could happen before, that you've lived before. Because people say, "Oh, I'm so drawn to Italy. I can't understand it. I just want to go there. Well, because they've lived there before is why they just don't know that. Or I've heard people say, I walked down the streets of London and I knew where things were. I knew where a little church was. I knew to turn down this alleyway. Now, where did that come from? Yep, a past life. So again, more people are getting open to it, but not enough yet. But here we are. I'm talking about it. And maybe 50 years ago, 40 years ago, people weren't talking about this on podcasts. And now they are saying, be open to the possibility. Because the other thing is, you bring in gifts from a past life. Now, say you've never taken a music lesson or a voice lesson, and you have this beautiful voice. Well, where did that come from? Another life. Probably is where you started it. Maybe you trained in that life and now you're developing. Or you are great with money because maybe you were an investor in another lifetime. Or you're good with art and it's just a natural ability. See, these come in from past lives because when you choose your life, you also ask for the gifts that you started in another life. And now you want to complete, maybe get better with them, take more lessons, make it a hobby, make it a full time job, whatever. But that's also another way that people can start to understand maybe they lived before.
I really, I really respect how grounded your perspective is, Jonah. And you're not presenting this as something mystical for the sake of it, but I feel as a framework of accountability, evolution, and choice. And the way you spoke about karma as something we actively work through rather than something that passively happens to us, I feel it gives the concept of gives the concept a lot of integrity. It really shifts the conversation from belief to responsibility, which I think is where real depth lives.
Yes, yes. I don't think it's mystical or anything. I think it's responsibility when you come to earth. You have to honor your soul first because we are all loved. And what happens when we get to earth, we lose some of that self-love that we have and self-respect because other people judge us. And children start to lose it around the age 6. And I'm saying we have to get back to that. We're all here for lessons. Nobody's perfect. We want to complete some lessons that maybe we were rude or disrespectful of people in another lifetime. So maybe in this lifetime, people are disrespectful to us till we go, oh, I understand this now. I was disrespectful, they're disrespectful to me. So you start being respectful to people. You start working through it, even though maybe you're not getting that feedback back yet, but it will come because your soul knows you're completing these steps. You're doing it and you'll feel much better that you can do that. And I also believe that besides people coming back, animals come back again and again. And boy, let me tell you, so many people today say, I walked in this shelter and this little dog, I didn't want a little dog, but this little dog just captured my heart because that little dog was with them in another lifetime. It could have been a big dog in another lifetime. This one, it got a little body. Or they go in and they want a dog and they get a cat because the cat just screams because they've known each other. There's something familiar. And dogs are here right now to really love us unconditionally, and we need that. And cats are here now to heal us, to heal our wounds and our soul.
Mhm. Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. Now, can you share some, common signs that a challenge might be connected to a past life experience?
Okay. All right. So you meet someone, like say you're at a party and you meet a man and you think, oh my gosh, he's the guy for me. I want to marry him. Now, maybe you're supposed to meet in this life, but you're not supposed to marry, because you have another destiny with somebody else, but you push it and you force it and you're making it work, even though it's bad, even though you argue. That's going against what you're supposed to do. So you have to be very aware. This is why meditation, trusting your intuition is so important because because many times you are allowed to meet people, but you aren't supposed to spend your whole life with them. Now, again, you might have a pattern with your family member that you have to work out. So instead of getting mad at them, You're saying, okay, I got to understand your point of view. I don't have to agree with it, but I still want to understand it. I don't have to change you. I want the best for you. This is what I say when I run into people that don't even believe in past life reading. I always say for the best and highest good for everybody. They aren't ready to understand it then, and that's okay with me, but for the best and highest good. But the signs are when you go somewhere, it seems familiar to you. You've been there before. When an animal comes in your life, that's been there before. When you have a disease, look if you've not completed something in another life that it's back in this life. What could those patterns be? Okay. And also, when you meet people, and we meet so many people, but just a few of them are the ones that we get close to. Those are what I call in your karmic circle. They repeat in many lifetimes, not all of them, but they repeat in many lifetimes coming back again. Then you can change the role. In one life, you could be the daughter. In another life, you could be the son. In another life, you could be the mother, or you could be the father, or you could be the uncle, or you could be the aunt. You change roles, but you stay to one role most of the time. Say like 85% you stay as a female, but you've got to experience being a male at times, or you wouldn't maybe be able to be a professor at a college back in the 1700s because only men could do that. So, understanding that many, many people that you come in contact with, you've known before. So now you might just meet them once, or they might be in your life for a couple years, or they could be in your life for a lifetime. Again, relationships take energy. And if you're going to clean up the karma and be honest with each other and be truthful, which is very hard for some people, then you have to speak the truth at all times with kindness. I think that's why we have so many bumpy relationships and so much to clear up because people aren't being honest with each other.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love how gently you describe that, Donna. That sense of familiarity, like you give the example, like the body recognizing a place before the mind can explain it, feels like a subtle but powerful indicator. And pairing that with meditation feels it, makes it feel less about searching for proof and more about noticing what quietly rises to the surface when we are still, enough to listen. And it's a very intuitive way of understanding these experiences, actually. That's really remarkable. And that's such a hopeful reminder. So, as we close today's episode, here's a reflection to sit with. What recurring pattern in your life, might be asking not to be fixed, but to be understood?
To be understood,
Mm-hmm.
someone might choose a career and nobody understands it because they say you could work in a big corporate job and make lots of money. And here you're running a rescue for pigs, pigs. But they don't understand there's nothing to be fixed here. That person has chosen to, run a rescue for animals. All right. So there's nothing to be fixed there. Another thing is that someone uh, says, I don't want to do what other people do. I don't want to sit in an office. I want to be outdoors. I want to be an outdoor instructor when it comes to a sport. Again, there's nothing to be fixed there. So if we understand that people are following their pure passion, not what society says they have to follow, but with their following their passion, there's nothing to fix there. Maybe they're not making a lot of money, but that's not their focus in this life. Okay. Or if someone wants to be a Buddhist, you don't have to fix it and change their religion. They don't have to believe what you believe. Okay. Understand that that is their path. So I have a line that says, stay in your own lane in trying to fix everybody else. Understand them, bless them, want the best. But you know what? They have a path they have to do. Yes, if they ask for advice, if they ask for information, that's something different. Then you can offer it. But other people try to judge you and say, "Oh, you must get married by a certain age. You must have this job by a certain, age." That's not true. We have to follow our individual paths. Sometimes it takes people a lot longer to find their center their pure center and their spiritual purpose in this lifetime.
Oh, that's indeed a powerful reminder as we close today's episode, Donna. And there's a mini healing practice for the week for our listeners. Write down one repeating challenge in your life. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" gently ask, "What is here to teach me?" Notice what arises without judgment. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's curious about soul healing or seeking deeper understanding of their life patterns. And don't forget to follow Healing Horizons with Saima and for more conversations that expand awareness and empower healing. Until next time, remember your soul carries a story, and within that story leaves the wisdom to heal. And this is Saima, and you have been listening to Healing Horizons.